Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Soprano Sorceress by L.E. Modesitt Jr. Um, with that, before I get into this mammoth 664-page book, I'd just like to, again, ask you to please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Also, leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys, and then spread the word. I love doing these videos. I love just talking about the books that I'm reading, and I hope that you guys enjoy them too. So, book one of the Spellsong cycle by L.E. Modesitt Jr., The Soprano Sorceress. Where to even begin with this, because it's a long book, and he doesn't waste any time really in getting the action really going here. The main character is Anna, and when the book begins, she's living in Ames, Iowa. So she's in our world, and I kind of like that idea that she's within our universe. And she's a music teacher at a college, at a university. She's got a failed marriage. Who her husband is a opera star, but she gets no help from him whatsoever. She has 3 kids, but though one had died about a month or two before the beginning of the book, we don't really see how or know why or know how she died. But she has a son and a daughter still left, and she's struggling through life, as you could say many of us are, and it's one of the themes that continues throughout the book, that struggle, that inner struggle. And she has to perform before like the donors board of the university, and she's in this green gown, doesn't have an umbrella, and all of a sudden she hears thunder and it begins to rain. And she basically just says, just get me out of here. Take me anywhere. Just get me out of here. Take me anywhere. And in another scene, there is a young man who lost his father to a sorcerer because his father hummed. And the sorcerer said that you're lazy. We can't have any more of this. Therefore, you're going to die. I've warned you enough. So Daffod, who is the son of the man who died, wants revenge on the sorcerer who kills his dad. And he's one of the most powerful sorcerers in the land. And he goes to a woman named Jenny and says, I want revenge on Lord Brill. He killed my dad, or as he would say, he killed my dad. And I want to bring a sorceress that can take him down. That's what I want to do. And between the two of them, they do the spell. And as they're doing the spell is when Anna is saying, take me anywhere else. So be careful what you wish for. What you wish for, because you just might get it. She ends up actually moving from our world to the world of Leadvar, which is the name of the world. She ends up in the area of Defalk. And in Leadvar, the only way to do magic is through song, through instrumentation and words. It's the words themselves, sung, that brings forth the spell. You have to write the spell out, be able to envision what you want it to do, and then the spell will go out. So a music teacher in Leadvar shouldn't be too hard, should it? Brill finds out, and he comes and he basically takes her to his holding. Um, and at first, we're very unsure of Brill and who he is and what are his motives. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? We know he's looking to fend off the Dark Ones, the dark like monks. They wear brown or black robes. They sing dark song, which has brought 4 years of drought basically to the land of Defalk as they're trying to weaken Defalk and make it easier to conquer. And Brill actually takes her under his wing and lets her kind of build up her sorcery. Though she's still not really buying this. It's interesting because LE makes a little bit of a pun where typically most fantasy books are medieval society. Where does she go back to? A medieval kind of society where men rule and they rule by force, and women don't have much say in anything. And these are the themes that keep cropping up. Is why do things have to be determined by force, through violence, through fighting? Why is that the only way that you can get any kind of resolution? Is that I mean it's kind of that way here in our world too, and it's sort of that linear there. And she ends up going to this fortress for a battle with the Dark Ones, and she has like no idea what she's doing. She has some stuff written, but she doesn't know if it's going to work. She hasn't tried it yet. Brill is like he's got his players that his little orchestra, 12-person orchestra he's got going for him, and he's throwing out spell after spell after spell after spell, trying to take the Dark Ones out, and he's not having any luck. They're breaching the walls. They're doing all the things that you just don't can't happen. And she finally says, "Okay, I got to do something. I'm just standing here like an idiot." And it's a feeling that she feels a lot through the book. Like she's an idiot, expecting things to work out her way. Why? Just because she's a sorceress. But she does her song, and boom, it's a fire spell that just destroys all the dark singers of the Dark Ones. That stops the storms and the lightning bolts from hitting the fortress and killing troops. By this point, everybody's fleeing. Everybody on her side, at least, is fleeing. All the men are going away. Brill's love, Leenda, who is a musician, is off in a corner getting bandaged up for an ankle injury. She does one more spell, and it takes out a whole bunch of more people. And she's basically done more in this one battle than anybody in Defalk has done in 3 years. But as she turns around, she sees Brill is dying. And as she goes to his side, he thinks she's Leenda, and he starts to sing a spell. And Anna's like, no, 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 no. But the spell is sung. And what it is it's a youth spell. So she will be forever young. It was meant for Leenda, but she gets it by mistake. Tales of her now start to go out. She had a war arrow in her shoulder. She rode all the way back to Brill's place and healed, and was up and about in under 2 weeks, when most people die from that. And she tried to deflect it with her hand, of all things. There's a whole lot that goes on in this book, and it would take me well over a half hour to an hour to cover everything. I mean, this is just like maybe the first part of the book, of the 3 parts. But let's just put it this way: she's constantly having to prove herself and constantly trying to have to figure out who is on her side, who's using her, and for how long are they going to use her before they try to get rid of her. And she goes from just being this sorceress from the Mist Worlds to regent, because she basically, the one Lord of Defalk dies in the first battle. Then there's the prophet of music, Belem, who is pretty much a joke, really. Um, he he wants to use her to a point to where he wants to take out the Dark Ones for himself. But in a battle that takes place, she does all the damage. She does all the casualties, which, because it's a victory, but it's an embarrassing victory to Belem, the prophet of music, because he did nothing. His men did nothing. They did not have to even raise their swords. It all came from her lutar, which is half lute and acoustic guitar, and her voice. So now he wants to basically get rid of her. He and his consort want to get rid of her. And she knows this, and she basically has them in a room. And before they can even do anything, she sings the fire spell, the fire song, and basically just reduces them to ashes. So now there's no ruler of Defalk. She basically takes over as regent, but she says, no, I'm only going to be active regent, because Barjim was the last of the Defalkian rulers. And I want to say, I want his grandson, Jim Bob, who I always have to kind of laugh because we think of those southern kind of names, Jim Bob, Bob Jim, Joe Bob, those kind of things. It's kind of funny, the name, but she says, I want him to, when he becomes of age, he's at 12, he's 12 years old at this point. But she's like, I want him to take over. This is his kingdom. So if I'm able to do what I need to do, he's going to be the one to rule. He's going to be the one that is going to take over. And so she becomes acting regent. And she decides to do one last battle. Instead of waiting for the Dark Ones to come at us and to watch the land die. If I do that, she said, I'm doing nothing. So she's like, I'm going to march on the Evolt. Now, the Evolt is the head of the Dark Ones. And she feels if she can take him out, that's the end of the Dark Ones. Now, there are a lot of politics that come into play. There's a lot of politics that come into play in this book. There's the Ranuak, which are basically, it's a society of matriarchs, and they are known for trade. And they're constantly looking at her and wondering, what's going on. There's the land of Vi, who they're looking and saying, is she going to create harmony, or is she going to create dissonance? Then there's Nezaria, who is where Lord Belem, the prophet of music, is from. So is she going to face retaliation from them? And then there's Ancora, who's, again, we don't know how many of these lands are with her or against her at this point. She has some lords in Defalk that are willing to go along with what she wants to do. But she says, I got one last plan, and I don't know if it's going to work, but if it works, it's going to buy us a whole lot of time. So she goes through and she's taking this mountain pass, and the mountain pass um, basically takes her just short of the Ostfels. Um, and she ends up at where Lord Jex is. So she's basically going from Falcor, which is where the sort of home base for Defalk is, um, over to where Lord Jex is, and she's hanging out there, building up time, building up spells, and building up the time to do what she needs to do. And the evil is looking at this, and he sees, oh, okay, she's here, she's there, she's going to come at us, but I think we got a couple of weeks. So have your plans ready in like 2 weeks, and be ready to move. And she's pretty much ready to move in 2 days. So they're on this road and going through the Ostfels, and as they come to a point where the road is just, it's gone and it's crumpled, and she's trying to figure out, okay, more sorcery. I gotta find a way to fix this road. And it's kind of funny, before this, she sees Lord Jex as sort of like a Sean Connery or Robert Mitchum kind of guy. And she's kind of smitten, but she can't allow herself to get too smitten with Jex at this point. So going back to where they're now stranded, she's trying to think of songs that she can play off of, and she thinks of the long and winding road. She's like, no, because I don't want a long road to have to travel. So then she thinks about On the Road Again. It's possible, right? So she starts to work out words in her head, and as she's doing this, she's trying not to hear, the author says, Roger Miller's voice in her head. And she strums the lutar and sings her song, and boom, the harmonies come together, and the road is now fixed. The evil sees this and is just like, oh, this is not good. We need to start placing traps, because she's coming. And we know how powerful she is. We've seen it. So as now they're moving through the road, they all start to see that the sky starts to darken and it gets black. And she's like, of course, the evil knows. I'm an idiot again for thinking he's just going to sit back and wait for me to come to him and bring it all at him. So she has now a group of 8 players, led by Daffod, who is still at this point alive. And they're not good, but she's hoping they're good enough to do what needs to be done. So she makes them play the hymn, and she sings the hymn, and I will look it up, just because I don't know the hymn off the top of my head, because it's kind of long, but just to give you an idea of how like the sorcery works, as I'm looking for it. Give me one second, and I will hopefully find it here. It's around here. Yes, here it goes. So here's kind of how it works. It works sort of in stanzas. The hymn, or the destruction spell, basically says, I have sung the terror of the power of all sounds. I am bringing forth the magma from the deeps where it resounds. I have loosed the fateful tremors of the plates beneath the grounds. My songs will smash the earth. Glory, glory, hallelujah, glory, glory, hallelujah. She's not being like religious here. Glory, she's playing off songs. Glory, glory, hallelujah, my songs will smash the earth. In the terror of the tremors, death is freed from all its locks, with a slashing through the hillsides that flattens trees and rocks. As I spell to keep men free, let us see Volt fall in shocks. My songs will smash the earth. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. My songs will smash the earth. With the rising of the waters, streams are loosed from all their banks, and their torrents through the hillsides will drown the darkest ranks. So now you imagine her singing this to the music, and it's the voice with the words carrying that does it, and that's going. So all her players are looking at like dumbfounded, just like the fact that they've seen this spell go off. But there's also armsmen that are taking on her troops, and she says, "Damn it, Daffod, start the fire song now." And she does her fire spell that she knows very well, which is basically armsman brown, armsman black, um, f- nor I'm sorry, armsman brown, armsman black, not flame nor ashes shall you lack. From the sky, fire flay you till you die. And there's like rows of fire that basically just like engulf these guys in fire. And she loses some people through the destruction spell and through the fire spell. There's a lot of destruction, and she loses some people. But in the end, she takes out the evils. And she survives, but she's obviously battered and bruised and beat up. But she has now become respected, accepted in a land that kills sorceresses, in a land that sees women rulers especially, as not a very good light. They have accepted her. And Lord Jex says, I don't envy you, because they are going to expect miracles. And she's like, yeah, miracles forever. And he says, no, not forever. He's like, just because you are forever young, or you appear forever young, there is no, he said, as far as I know, there is no spell that makes one immortal. You may live a decade or two longer, but you're still going to die like the rest of us, but you are a sorceress. And they are going to want more from you. Now, the other political factions are looking, and one says basically, we have to try to explain this to the council, but she's holding to her word. She's not taking absolute power the way she could. She's still keeping it for Jim Bob. She's only acting regent until he becomes of age where he can then take over. And so that wins them over kind of to her, at least we think. But that's sort of where the book ends, is them returning back to Falkor and with Jim Bob. And it's at night, and there's this basically there's kind of a celebration, I guess, going on, a bonfire. And Jim Bob basically asks her, she's kind of become his tutor, and she's like set up this like learning institute, like Falkor has become like an institution for like the Lord's kids, so they can come and learn. And the other political factions throughout the land of Leadvar see this and says that's a good thing too. She's not consolidating power for herself. She's strengthening the people around her for good. So basically, the way the book ends is she's just sitting in the castle at Falkor, and she's trying to figure out where to go from here. She just doesn't know. She's going to go down to the celebration, but she doesn't really know when, and she's just trying to get. She realizes now for the first time, I have power, and I can direct things the way I want them to be. For once, things don't have to be so bad for not just me, but for everyone. I can make things good around here. I mean, the rain has returned to Defalk. The land is starting to grow again. So with that, she sort of ends on a happier note, realizing that, hey, I have some power here. I can do something. And then, I'll go see Brill's place a few times at least. And then when Jim Bob takes over, I'll go and hang out, and Brill will be, Brill's castle will be mine. So that's where the story basically ends. And I mean, it's a lot. It's 664 pages. And this is only book 1 of 5. And this is all, there's a lot that happens in here. Now, I'm really interested to see where the series goes. Does Anna reappear? Where's she at? Where's everything at when book 2 begins? And I got to say that this was a page turner for me. It took me a while to read just because I got a work life that I got to do. So, but I tried to knock this thing out as fast as I could. But it's a page turner. It really is. There's a lot going on. It's very interesting. The themes that keep coming up. The having to take things by force, especially from women. Why do men have to be that way? Why does violence have to be, the be all end all to solve everything? And it's just, I thought it was just a really good book, and I'm hoping that the rest of the series really lives up to that. So I give this thing 5 stars easily, and I mean, I'm going to be reading The Magic of Recluse. That's going to be cool. If it's anything like this. There's also the Korean cycle I'm going to be reading by him, and if it's anything like this, that's going to be sweet too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to moving on. 5 stars. I recommend it highly. So with that, again, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Turn on leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you, and help spread the word. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. And as always, until next time, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.